Welcome back to another episode with Wellness with Mo. My name is Mo, and this week's episode, I have a special guest, Linda Lemos. She's the host of Linda Love Talks, keynote speaker, and book author. Hi, Linda. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's early from this side of the world, but I am up. I'm ready. I'm happy to be on your show.
That's great. That's great. So where are you? Which area are you in the States? Which part?
I'm f- I'm in the New York City metro area, so I'm on the East Coast
Oh,
um
okay. All right.
of the United States. But I
Okay.
usually don't mention that too much, but and when I travel, I don't mention that at all.
Why? Why is that?
I don't know. There's this horrible thinking that like if you're from a certain country that you are very wealthy, but
Uh,
we're not all wealthy. It's this I feel like it's the same in many countries. There's the ultra wealthy and the ones that are like
yeah,
working.
yeah. It's people's misconceptions are always drives the narrative of any conversation. But no, I understand you. I mean, same thing here. We are all we're not we're not wealthy at all. There's only a very small percent.
Hmm.
Especially in Egypt. Egypt is like over 100 million people. So say 1% of the 100 million are the wealthiest of wealth, and the rest are poor
Yeah.
to very poor to uh, very poor. So that's great. So I always like to share people's stories and journeys. So usually I like to ask my guests, who are you? Who's Linda?
Wow, okay. I'm a little now you just may put me on a spot. I have to get used to being a guest. I'm so used to being on the other side.
Okay.
Uh I have to relinquish control here. Um it's really interesting. Who am I? Yeah, I'll tell you my story. I'm first generation college student.
Okay.
So I'm the first one in my family to get a college education. It was very difficult for my family to finish high school.
Okay.
My parents started working when they were both 8 years old. That's very normal for their country. They're from Uruguay in
Okay.
South America, so
Okay.
child labor is normal in many South American countries. So they didn't have much education. They came here to the United States with three children, and then I became their fourth child. And they had very basic jobs here in the United States that paid minimum wage. So as a child, I watched my parents struggle financially. And that became kind of like my own struggle as well. But I was very um well, I was aware of things. Like I was aware that I couldn't have what other children had or who parents had, more money or a higher paying job or a career. So I started working at the age of 13.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was at the age of 13, I started working. I wasn't supposed to, but I convinced my manager at that time. I was like, "Well, just let me train. I'll just come once a week and I'll just like train until," because I was like 2 months away from being 14. And in the United States, what you do is you take they'll give you a paper and your parents have to sign, and then I think your school has to sign,
Okay.
and
Okay.
then you can go off and work. So I worked at a grocery store, and that was hard work. Grocery stores are a lot of work. I did
Of course, there are a lot of work. I mean,
so much work.
people don't imagine it, and they unfortunately it's same thing here in Egypt.
Mhm,
Unfortunately, they take people who work in grocery stores or supermarkets or hypermarkets, whatever you want to call them, for
mhm,
granted. I mean, but it's a hard job, and it's a very difficult job, especially when you have a lot of different kind of customers coming in, different kind of
mm.
people. Um, Someone arguing with you, someone shouting at you. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
it's it's a tough job. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Go
so
ahead.
it's the same over there.
Yeah, it is. Of course it is.
So
We're not.
here it's yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So here it's the same. So what I did my first job was I would push the carts. So there's like carts, there's parking line, you have to grab like all the carts that are out. And then I'd take out the garbage. And if there was like someone, spilled something on aisle 8, I was her cleanup on the aisle 8 girl. So that's how I started
Okay.
working in my job.
Okay,
And it was
you remind me of a lot of American movies. Uh, aisle eight, come clean up aisle eight. I remember there are a lot of movies that show this. And actual fact, could you mention that I was recently watching a documentary
Mhm,
by President Barack Obama talking about jobs of people you rarely see. I
mhm,
think that there was this lady. There was, I mean, several stories. There was this lady. She's, I think from Uruguay, Paraguay.
mhm,
She's Latino,
mhm,
Hispanic, and yeah, same thing. She cleans 20 years. She's been cleaning homes, a very up and up hotel, and and she's really proud of it. And she talks. No one. There are people who smile. There are people who don't smile. People who tip. People who don't tip. But it's a really tough job. I mean,
mhm.
it's not that easy. I mean, and we do really take it for granted. Who don't do that job kind of job, take it for granted that that's your job. You have to do it. I mean, but so difficult.
Yeah,
It is.
definitely.
It is really hard. So you worked as aisle eight girl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was your cat. And then I used to get so mad and I hated the job because it was so hard. And then I realized, which kind of coincides with what you do, which is like confidence and wellness and so forth. I realized I had to change my attitude. I wasn't going to survive the job if I didn't change my attitude. So I started trying to like the job or find aspects of the job that I liked doing because I realized that they took a chance on me. It was very hard for me to find a job at such a young age here. Um, Jobs for teenagers is 16 or 18. So I was like, okay, I just have to like put up with it. I
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
just be tough. And then one day I saw the cashiers and I was like, wow, their job looks so much easier than my job, and they don't have to be, like, out in the cold or out when it's, like, summertime and it's 100 degrees. So I went over to this lady, which I love her to death. We'll call her Miss M.
Okay.
I'm still friends with her, still friendly with her, and, I said to her, because I saw that her son came in, became a bagger, and then quickly became a cashier, and I was like, "Hey, I've been here for, like, a while now. What how do I do that?" So I went to her and asked her, "How do you get that job? How do you get the cashier job?" And she was like, Linda, you have to study, you have to take a test, pass it, and then we can make you cashier, and we'll give you a raise of $1," which I was like,
Wow.
$1 is like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, dollar does make a big difference. Well,
Yeah, I
especially
was like
especially when you're 14. Especially when you're 14.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like thinking, oh, I'm gonna buy my new Nike sneakers with that dollar raise and I'm gonna have it and everything, so you start thinking like that. So
Yeah.
luckily I passed the test, which was phenomenal, and I could be a cashier and it was an easier job. You had to deal more with the people though, right? Your customers, like you said. But it was an easier job. I'm glad I studied. I'm glad I took the test and passed.
Of course. Of course. Of course. That's great. That's great. That's great. So that that brings me to my next question that I really want to ask you, because
Hmm.
a lot of people think I'm so resilient, because my journey also was not an easy one.
Hmm.
Not that I worked when I was young, but um, I'm one of those many victims of the pandemic. Many
Mm. Hmm.
victims. So I lost my job in April 2020.
Hmm.
And my manager at that time was from New York,
Hmm.
and he's from India. India originally, but he's an American. And whatever happened during that period of time, uh, didn't work out, and he just laid me off. We were only two people because it was
Mm.
like a startup in Egypt, and it was not really clear what they wanted. So yeah, I understand. I understand where you're coming from. So people think or label me as a resilience expert because of what I had to endure. Uh, but I always say that other people have interesting stories, and your story is so interesting that your parents worked at a young age, you worked at a young age. So tell me, how would you define resilience? Does being a resilient person differ in terms of mindset? I mean, I know people who have fixed mindset and are not, if if something happens to them, they won't be able to manage to overcome it. They would just simply uh, shrivel and die literally because they won't be able to do it. But there are some people that like yourself have the tenacity and the ability to be resilient in difficult circumstances. So what's your take on resilience?
Well, you know what it is too? You have to kind of go through life and see, okay, am I better right now, or have I been in a worse situation? And I'm going to take it a couple years even further than that. I was like 4 or 5 years old, and me and my brothers would have to like wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning or earlier sometimes. And my parents, had the worst jobs, right? And they were minimum wage jobs. So my parents would do paper delivery, newspaper delivery, and they didn't have any babysitters. So we'd go with them to work.
Okay.
And they also cleaned movie theaters and they cleaned offices. So I was 4 or 5 years old. And what always knew was work. My parents took me with them to work. So when I was a kid, I didn't understand what movie theaters were. I just knew it was this dreadful place that was dark.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I didn't go there for entertainment.
yeah,
So I knew
yeah,
it was dreadful and it was dark, and that my job, because I was the little one, was to pick up the paper cups that were on the floor that all these people left. And I was like, I remember thinking as a kid, these people are so rude. Can they put it in the garbage can?
of course.
So I think going from like a kid to working with my parents, but not getting a pay, just helping them,
Mm.
to being 13 and like getting a paycheck that was my very own. That is also how you become resilient, is when you've been in like situations that were not the best, but then you have something to compare it
Yeah,
with,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You've been through something worse. And, just to talk about a lot of people lost their jobs during the pandemic. And we, as a country, realized how dependent we are on other countries for so many things. Um, Luckily for me, I was working. I was one of probably the few people that I was working as a consultant and remotely. But I had been unemployed before the pandemic.
yeah.
Um, there was a financial slowdown happening
Mm.
before the pandemic, and I think the pandemic made it worse, or sped up the financial downward decline for many companies.
Yeah, yeah. No, no. Here in Egypt, we had the pandemic, and then we have the war in Ukraine, and then we have economic instability because currently our Egyptian pound is doing really uh, badly, and in Egypt, dollar is right. I mean, the dollar is increasing, and the Egyptian pound value of the Egyptian pound is increasing, and prices are increasing. And like you said, you depend on other nationalities and countries. In Egypt, our livelihood, our food, 90% of it is we are importing it from other countries. Like
Mm,
I don't know, coffee, tea, milk, eggs. Just the basics. I'm not saying
mhm.
caviar. I'm not saying
You're right.
sushi and all those.
Mhm.
No, I'm talking about basics. do the math and say, okay, so the meal at McDonald's here in Egypt for me, for a father who has two sons and my wife, costs like 1,000 Egyptian pounds, which would be like, if you divided by 60, which is, I don't know, something uh, very, very minimum. I don't know how much it is, but that's how we know that we're screwed.
That is so funny that you bring up McDonald's.
Yeah, because
So
this is our benchmark here in Egypt, because that's basically what we do. We like to eat. We have McDonald's, we have Starbucks, we have
you guys have Starbucks? I have to go visit now.
of course we have
Never been to
Starbucks.
Egypt.
We have Starbucks and everywhere, but
Mhm.
because of the war that's happening
Yeah,
next door, so there's we are not we're not encouraging. Unfortunately, we're not encouraging um, Starbucks and McDonald's and KFC and for me, of course, this is not correct, because people that are being screwed are the people who are working, who are Egyptians, who don't
right.
have any other job but that. I mean, they found themselves this. So I understand the concept, but I again, I I drink Nescafe, so Nescafe is from this, and it's a foreign thing. So if I keep on thinking what items I'm not gonna use because of whatever war, I, you won't find it. I won't find anything to eat or drink. Everything is,
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, compared to your neighbors, you're doing a lot better. You still have like your
of course,
podcast and your roof and your
of course. Oh
your
yeah,
room there,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Yeah, of course.
compared to
One thing I would say is that I went for a whole month in Yemen,
Mhm,
uh, very recently, northern
mhm,
Yemen, where back Iranian regime is there, and yeah, I mean, I come from Egypt and I see these people. No, 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 they're living a worse life possibly than what I have. So
yeah.
I decided then and there is
Mhm.
not to take anything for granted. I'm living in Egypt. I'm secure. I have security. I have my family. I do my podcast. We have everything we want. Yeah, it's expensive, but
Mhm.
everything is becoming expensive. So we need to cut down. Maybe that's the point. But
Yeah,
the living, we're okay with it. The kids are going to school. We're living our life.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
That's
yeah,
that's
okay,
part of wellness. That's
sure,
part of thinking affirmatively, is to
exactly,
think positively, of
of
to focus on what you do have, right?
course,
And not what you don't
of
have.
course. So my question to you,
Hmm.
because I have the impression that you've been working ever since you're little.
Yeah.
You don't have any.
Welcome welcome to America. It's not what you think of America, right? That's why I
No,
feel
no, no. Well, I don't think about. I know that there are a lot of hardworking Americans that,
hmm
that want to make. But let me ask you here this question: do you have any kind of regrets of not living your childhood? Did that have any impact on you as you grew up?
You know what? Things got so much better for me once I started working, because I was the kid that when I went to high school, I was the kid that had like the worst clothes. And here we don't wear uniforms. I know a lot of other countries, kids use uniforms, which is better. Everyone wears the same thing. But here you don't in public schooling. So I was like the kid with like the worst clothes on, the sneakers with the holes. That's actually what got me to go get myself a job. I had one pair of Nike sneakers that my dad would buy me once a year, and I had to wear them for a whole year, and they had holes in them. They both did. And I was the laughing stock of the other children. Children can be, and young adults can be quite cruel sometimes. So I think that's what pushed me to get a job. And then I started working in the grocery store. Then about a year afterwards or so, I left, worked at Macy's, which was the best
Mm,
thing I could have ever done at a retail department store. And I got discounts on clothes. So I was like, yay.
yeah,
So I started dressing better, right? And it's very interesting, but people do treat you differently when you wear different clothes.
Yeah,
I think we
because
all do.
because because I think that's the judgment that we put in front of people. I mean, if I see a person coming, I don't know, whatever, a bank here in Egypt, okay, and I look at him and see how he's wearing flip flops and coming with shorts. No, my impression would be, yeah. I mean, he may have money, but he's not giving the impression that he's looking after himself. Doesn't really care.
Right.
Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm sure that people don't really care what other people think. I want to wear whatever I want, but we have a thing here in Egypt that always wear what you think people want you to look at. I mean, if I'm going into an interview, I wear a suit. I don't do a full suit, but I wear a suit because even if the interviewer is wearing casual, jeans and t-shirt and so on, no, I want to give the impression that I'm a serious guy. I'm coming for a serious job. I'm not coming to play around or no have a good time. I can do that in my own personal time. So yeah, I think people do judge what they wear, but as a mindfulness coach and because of my mentors as Indians, I don't judge anyone
Yeah.
as a whole. I don't judge anyone because at the end of the day, that person could be much better than me intellectually and spiritually, and has better life than I have. So
Mm.
why should I judge? But it's interesting that you said that you got bullied, right, when you were young.
Oh, absolutely. That's what pushed me to go get a job because I wanted to have better clothes. My parents couldn't afford to buy me the high designer brands clothes like Nikes or your Tommy Hilfiger and stuff like that. That I know you guys know who they what it is. I think
Yeah,
Nike's worldwide.
yeah. Well, and here in Egypt, I want to tell you something. Poor
Hmm.
people want to buy these things because
Hmm.
they want to look uh, like 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 us. When I buy a Nike from here in Egypt, it's expensive. It's not a
Right.
it's
Here it's expensive.
a
Yeah.
very expensive shoe, but they want to
Hmm.
be like us. So yeah, they always are after brands and all that kind of nonsense for me. At the end of the day, a shoe is a shoe, shirt is a shirt. But I want to go back to the part of the
Hmm.
bullying. I understand you because the problem I had when I was growing up was my father was a diplomat. So, and I always say this on my podcast, I never felt I belonged to any camp. When I went abroad, I was bullied because of my ethnicity, my background, my religion, because I'm an Arab, because I'm a Muslim, because I'm from Egypt. When I came to my homeland, I was bullied because I was a Westerner. I thought openly. I said anything I wanted to say. I had.
Hmm.
So okay, guys, where do you want me to be? You don't want me here, and they don't want me there, and I don't know. I never, I never fitted well, and it was really a tough thing, especially also when I wanted to talk to a girl here in Egypt. Very difficult, very difficult. Coming from, you know, I really remember I was coming from Australia. My father was working in the consulate in Sydney. So Western countries, it's easy to go up and talk to a girl and say hi, how are you, and I like you, and so on, and boyfriend, girlfriend, and these things are a piece of cake. So I had that when I came back to Egypt. So different. Every time I wanted to go with no intention of asking the girl, I just wanted to be a friend. People always labeled or thought that I wanted to go out with that girl and that girl and that girl. That was never my intention. So I really had very different times to just have good good people to talk to. Even today, I mean today, I have a lot of friends who are girls, but I treat them all like my sisters. Sisters.
That's
I
really,
yeah,
yeah. Hmm.
yeah. I would treat them as my sisters. I know my boundaries. I know what to do, what to say, and what not to say. Because again, if I flirt too much, I don't want to flirt too much to give the wrong impression.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, going back to the question, was my childhood hard? I think we've all had hard childhoods in one way or the other. I don't regret it. I loved that I was able to have so much work experience because let me tell you something, when I graduated from college, I made a lot more than my classmates because
Yeah.
I had the work experience and I would negotiate my salary. And I'd be like, "Oh no, you can't pay me what I used to get paid in the store, in the retail. No, you got to get paid me more because I just spent money and got a college degree, you know."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really amazing because here in Egypt, working it only starts in the universities and that. So we don't have too many people working, teenagers working at McDonald's or anything.
Wow, I
Our,
don't
our,
know.
our, our teenagers here don't would would not like to do it. They'll say, "No, no, it's beneath me. Let me put it this way."
Hmm.
I'm not generalizing, but this is what I see.
Hmm.
So I wanted to ask you. You talk about diversity and equality,
Hmm.
and I'm really interested to understand more because as someone who talks about wellness, one of my main advocate ideas is always to support women in their I'm not going to say struggle, but in their mission to become equal in terms of pay, become equal in terms of human beings, be treated like an equal. And I believe that so much, and and I also believe that there are uh, certain areas women excel more than men,
Hmm.
and I know that women are more emotionally connected than than men, and that's why they make better leaders, better presidents, better prime ministers, better. This is what I believe. So I want to understand your take about diversity and equality. So I believe this is what you talk about from your side. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. I think that there is an issue worldwide and it varies from country to country. There's people that is favored more in society than other individuals. I don't believe in that. I believe in treating others how you would like to be treated and being as fair as possible. And it has been a bit of a problem here in the United States. Growing up, I lived in different neighborhoods, so I have a wide perspective and have seen many injustices. Um, I think also we inherit good things and bad things from our family. We all do, regardless of what culture or what country you're in. There are people that sadly they inherit um, bias and prejudice, and they do it, and sometimes they know that they're doing it, and sometimes they know that they're not. So it's something that I try to teach as a mentor, because I'm also a mentor to college students, is to kind of let go of certain things that perhaps your grandfather, your dad, or whoever it was taught you. There's For some individuals in this country, there's a thought that if you belong to a minority group, that you are of lesser value, or that your voice does not matter, or that you will not achieve greatness or success, which that is completely false. And stereotypes is really someone else's opinion of what they think I am. It's not who I am, you
Exactly,
know.
exactly,
But
exactly.
those opinions can be very harsh and can make you feel like you're a lesser person, or
Or
that you won't be able to achieve certain things.
or it can ignite you and become a better person.
Mm-hmm.
I will always would you know uh, I'm not going to say stereotyping, but when I talk in Arabic here in Egypt, because I traveled a lot, I still have an accent as if I'm a foreigner who learned Arabic. So a lot of a lot of times when I do training, people would always ask me this question: why is your Arabic so so bad in terms of pronunciation? Why do you feel? Why do I feel that you didn't live here? So I always tell them, well, I don't care about my Arabic. I like my Arabic. I like the level. I will not change it. I cannot change it. Definitely, I cannot change it. And I live with it. You understand me. I understand. So what's there? This is not a weakness I have. And even if it's a weakness in terms of writing something in Arabic, I have different ways of overcoming my weaknesses without even telling them that I have the weakness. Sometimes if I want someone to write something in Arabic, it's a very simple technique. We all use it as trainers. Okay, please come. Oh yeah, yeah. You look. You're good. You seem to be good in writing. So why don't you write for us all what is being said? Voila,
That
I solved the issue. I don't have to write anything. I just want them to have an activity, and they're talking to each other. So, So yeah,
that is
yeah.
interesting. That is so interesting that you bring up languages. That's one of the things that I've always have tried to do is read in different languages and try to speak in different languages. And it's so funny. I had a Russian friend come to the house the other day, and my mom greeted him, and I was like, Mom, greet him in his country's language. You know how to greet in Russian. And so I told my mom how to say it, and he was laughing. He's like, You speak Russian with a Spanish accent. I was like, Well,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
don't ask me
yeah.
for it to be perfect. I know like over six languages, and I try my best. It's not either I'm gonna have an English accent, like an American accent, or I'm gonna have a Spanish accent when speaking your language.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, and Arabic is one of those. It's a beautiful language. I'm not just saying it because it's my language. No, but it is beautiful. It's written in a beautiful way, but it's extremely difficult. We have
It
so
is.
many so many. If you think French is difficult in terms of verbs, and Arabic is way more difficult. And the problem is, Linda, that today's teachers here in Egypt, they teach Arabic in a way that kids, my son, my 7-year-old son, he came to me for a few weeks ago and told me this, Dad, I'm English. No, not English. You're an Egyptian. No, no, no. I'm English. I talk English. I told him no. Our mother tongue, Arabic, Arabic, and because you're in an international school, so you talk English and Arabic. But at the end of the day, you need to know Arabic, regardless if you
Mhm,
like the language or not. Anything you want to do in our country, any government, whatever papers or
mhm.
whatever, or all in Arabic. If you don't know how to read the Arabic, then you won't know how to do this. So you are Egyptian. So problem is they teach Arabic in a way that so it hasn't changed the past 100 years. It's the same way. It's the same way I was taught. It's the same way my
Mhm.
father was taught, and my grandfather, and my grandfather, and so on and so forth. It hasn't changed. Hasn't changed. They keep on teaching us uh, grammar and whatever, and it doesn't stick. I don't use grammar. I don't think of the verb before I talk.
Mhm.
no,
I hate that way that they teach, and they teach Spanish here in the United States that way, and a lot of foreign languages are taught that
uh,
way. I would shortcut everything. Let me tell you, it's so much easier. Just learn phrases, learn popular phrases,
exactly,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
And that's how I usually try to learn.
yeah,
And I
yeah, yeah.
used to be able to speak more Arabic. I used to have a very good coworker when I
Okay.
worked in retail store.
Oh,
And he was Egyptian. So he would teach me, and when
oh,
he saw me, it's so sweet. I think it's so endearing. And I love when people meet me that they think I'm from their country or that I'm from, I don't know why, but I never take offense. So I used to talk to him a lot, and I was like trying to remember, and I couldn't remember because I was like, oh, I want to be impressive and like say a phrase, but I couldn't remember anything. But I
okay.
just remember like my first falafel that he
Uh,
brought. He made it himself for me
okay.
for lunch, and I was like, This is amazing. This is the greatest meal I've ever had.
In Egypt, we say falafel, yes, and but falafel
Hmm.
a word that is used in the areas of Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Palestine. That area, that's the word. In Egypt, as an Egyptian, in Cairo, in Alexandria, they use the word falafel, but in Cairo, we use the word tameya. Tameya.
Oh,
Okay, it's the same thing.
never
It's
heard
a
of it. Never heard it.
no, you won't
Well, how,
hear it.
why he teach me wrong then?
No, 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 no. It's the same. It's same meaning. Same meaning. We
Okay.
do sometimes say falafel, but
Hmm.
because we got used to it, so it's tameya
Hmm.
and tameya is it's done through the beans, which is cool. I don't know what the beans called. The name. It's the staple meal or the staple food for Egyptians. It's supposed to
Hmm.
be the uh, uh, inexpensive meal, but nothing in
Yeah.
Egypt anymore is inexpensive. Everything has become expensive, even this. But yeah, we like to eat it every now and then.
Hmm.
I don't eat it that
Go.
much, but because it bothers my colon
Oh, okay.
and other
Well, going
or other medical things.
going yeah, it's fried as well. But going back to Arabic, it's one of the languages that are most spoken around the world, so it is definitely important, um,
Yes, it is,
you
it is,
know,
it is.
to learn it.
And for us, it is important because of our Quran and so on, all in Arabic. And if you don't know how to read Quran, then you don't know how to read Arabic. It's quite an issue because it's not easy reading. If you think Arabic is difficult, Quran itself is written in Arabic, which is quite not an easy way to read it. And there are ways to read it. So I wanted to ask you an interesting question. What do you think are the challenges that face women these days in the business world? Since you've been working since you're young, so definitely you've seen the challenges up front. What's one of
Yeah,
them?
I think for me, from my own experience, and I can only talk about my own experience, I think one of the challenges is there I worked in a company where there was older men. So their thought and their idea of was for a woman to believe it or not, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this still happens here, was for a woman to be like at home still, because when they started working, and they're 60-year-old men, that are running some companies. When they started working, there were no women in office jobs here in the United States, or very few. And actually, it's true. I mean, I started working in a construction company a couple years ago. That's who hired me. And I was like only like the third female in the whole company in the office to be working. So there's that. And then it's also harder for us to be considered for management positions. I had a job where I did the job of management, but I was never considered for it. And it was mostly because of my gender. So that. And then lastly, we do get harassed at work. So and a lot of women don't know how to handle. Um, there's something called, no one ever teaches that. College doesn't teach you how to um tell someone, hey, no,
Right?
I
Yeah,
don't appreciate your advances. So I think that's, regardless of what country, I think that's definitely an issue.
yeah. It is an issue here in Egypt. Harassment is a big issue, very big issue, and has nothing to do with uh, ladies wearing veil or not wearing veil, or wearing
Mhm.
some revealing or not revealing sickness. Sickness. These guys are sick in their mind, and when you try and talk to them, logically, don't you have you have a mother, don't you? If your mother was harassed in the street, what would you do? Sister was harassed. What, your wife was harassed. What would you do? I mean, if you're harassing girls and you don't want your family to be harassed, so why are you doing it? No, no, it's really bad. The problem here in Egypt is that we have this we have codes of codes of ethics. Certain companies we
Hmm.
have that issue, but again, the problem is how can you prove that there was a sexual
Yeah.
harassment? How can you prove
Yeah.
it? And
Mm.
it's funny that you're saying that because I was delivering a training about harassment. I'm not no, I have no idea about harassment. It's not my area of expertise, but
Hmm.
um, wellness and well-being is, is always entering every area, every facet of life. So the problem with that is how can you make sure that this doesn't happen, and what are the uh, what what are the things that you're supposed to do for not the victim, for the person who's harassing. I mean, what they do is they move the victim away, okay, but
Hmm.
they don't punish the harasser at all. They don't punish. They keep him in the same place. That's the issue. Same place.
Well, when you're being harassed, regardless of what the harassment is, because men get harassed as well, sometimes by a woman, sometimes by another man, so
Of
regardless
course.
of harassment, I think you have to let the person who is bothering you or advancing or invading your space or your wellness, you have to let them know as soon as possible
Yeah.
that you're not going to tolerate their behavior. Because a lot of people that are victims of harassment, we keep quiet, we think it's going to go away, and it gives the perpetrator or the person who's harassing you, when you stay quiet or you think it's going to go away or that someone else is going to help you,
Mm,
um you're allowing the behavior to continue.
okay.
So first thing is first is to just, and you can't be aggressive, and I guess this is different culture to culture how you talk.
Of course.
I would speak in a very American corporate way of, um I'm I am aware that you may or may not have certain relationships with other individuals. However, I value our relationship professionally, and you want to emphasize professionally, and that you hope that it will continue to be as such, or else you have to look for help as the victim and see if you have an HR department or you have a manager or you have somebody else's manager sometimes that
Yeah.
might be able to step in for you and kind of solve the situation if it continues. It's really sad in the United States. There has been legal cases. I had a colleague of mine who told me, he told me his wife had been extremely violated at work, that it had happened to her, where they had to bring in the police and everything. So don't think it's going to go away. You have to address it. There's no other way to go about it, because the longer you sit in silence or the more you tolerate it, the worse it can get. And one day it's just like maybe grabbing your arm or whatever. The next day might be grabbing something else. The next day it
And
might
it
be a
gets
full-on assault.
yeah, yeah, and gets worse and worse and worse, and as long as
Hmm.
you're silent and you don't do any action, so the perpetrator won't understand the signal that you're okay, you're not saying anything. So I'll keep on doing it until
Hmm.
and yeah, yeah, I do agree with you. So let me ask you this: what are the five tips would you give for women to be successful in today's business world? Give me three
Oh no,
tips.
it's well, that ranges. Well, let me give you five tips. It
Yeah.
ranges. It ranges. I'll try to do five. It ranges widely because it depends what industry you're in, and it depends who your bosses are.
Okay.
Um, and how that professional relationship is going to be. Okay, so it's a lot of things. But for me, my own personal success, I would tell you, I have worked very hard, and because I am who I am, and because I've been a minority, Latina, and a woman, I've had to work 2 and 3 times harder than a man has had to work. I've
Okay.
had to continuously keep myself educated,
Mm.
um, because of who I am as well. It's almost like I have to I I have to make sure my skills are the highest possible. 3, you I feel like I've worked in industries. I've worked in entertainment industry, construction industry. I worked almost in all the industries so you can imagine.
Mm.
Um, I'm very much a woman that when I walk into like the construction industry, I dress nice, somewhat conservatively, but I also do tell the guys I become like their sister at work,
Okay.
basically,
Yeah.
you know, and like certain outfits that they used to have one jacket that was like for men and one jacket that was for women, and I was like, no, give me the man's jacket. I don't even want you to give me the man. It fits better anyway. You know what I mean?
Huh.
So I think it's that. Um, I wish women were nicer to each other at work. I don't know how it is there, but here it can be very competitive. And then lastly, I think the hardest, you mentioned competition earlier. I
Yeah.
think people really think that they're in competition when they work,
Mm.
and they're really not. I mean, in the companies I worked at, they hire you for one job. You might be there for a while, like 4, 5, 8, 7, 10 years. As many years as you tolerate that move that and you stop thinking that you're in competition with the world and everyone, you're going to be doing so much better. Just do
Yeah.
the best job that you can do,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of backbiting, I think, in offices and gossip. Stay away from that. That's not part of your job.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's the same thing here in Egypt. We have gossip everywhere. Also, women are not very nice to each other, not that much.
Hmm.
Men usually, I personally prefer working with women more than working with men. Uh, I'm working with women all the time right now. I mean, I'm working, and I find them better mentors, better leaders for me. I understand them better. I don't know why. It's a very weird thing, but somehow I feel more at ease with. Not going to say women, manager, but a leader than a guy. I don't know. It's just how I feel. So, um, tell me one sentence or one word that describes Linda.
Ooh. Oh, I believe that you can be a love in this world. And I like using my nickname a lot. That's why my podcast is called Linda Love Talks Podcast, where we talk about careers and a few other topics. You know, there is so much harshness and so much ugliness in this world.
Yeah,
And I get it. Like sometimes people hurt you, so a lot of people want to hurt someone back, or be evil, and you don't have to do that. You can excel in life, and you can help others as well along the way. You can be love in this world, you know and I think that's what can ultimately change the world as well. And using intelligence and learning what type of intelligence you need, like with us having this conversation, we're learning and we're establishing, a cultural intelligence. So I think that's
exactly.
what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
love, that would be my word or my phrase.
Okay. And so, what's your dream, Linda? What's
I'm living my dream. Honestly,
dream?
I never, I never thought I would ever meet celebrities. I never thought I'd work in the entertainment industry. That happens.
Okay,
I never thought I'd go to college. I'm a high school dropout.
okay,
I finished high school at night. I worked during the day and then went to night. So I finished high school at night. So I've been able to have one, two, three college degrees. I'm working on my fourth college degree right now. I'm a book author. I never thought I would be a book author. I wrote, uh, Oop, Can the Law Regulate Social Media and Should
Okay.
It? Which is
Yeah.
really interesting because I think Egypt have some laws with regards to social media,
Yeah. Of
and
course. They do. They do. They do. And they
a
should.
lot probably. Uh-huh.
They should regulate social media because there's a lot of a lot of bad things that happen because of social media.
Oh yeah, definitely. And in the United States, it's not, and it's per state. So every state is different, which is
Yeah.
interesting. And they don't, and a lot of Americans don't realize like when they're on a social media platform that like that's how we met, right?
Yeah.
You can be talking with someone across the world. And so you might open your mouth and inserting your foot sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. And then I also did write as well my first political book, which is called Would Kentucky Voters Approve a Ban on Assault Weapons? I co-wrote this with
Okay.
my co-author.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's been
That's an issue you have in the United States. We don't have that much of that issue here. We do have weapons in south of Egypt near the Sudanese border,
Mhm.
but we don't have people going killing. We have bombs. We have bombs, so, so that's a different thing. So Linda,
every
yeah,
every region has an issue.
yeah, we have bombs. It's different. So Linda,
Uh-huh.
thank you very much for being with us on Wellness from Home. I mean, I learned a lot from you, and I think you are such an amazing human being, such an inspiring person, working so young and gaining all that experience. And I mean, I don't think a lot of people would have been able to do what you've done, because it takes some kind of courage from a person to overcome all those hardships, become what they want to become.
Mhm.
Is the American dream, I would say. I mean, I believe so, that you are a great example of the American dream. So I really salute you and thank you very much for being with us on the podcast.
Thank you. It's been fun. I appreciate it.
Oh, it was my honor, and I'm so humbled to know you. Thank you, thank you. Okay, okay, everyone. Thank you all for listening this week. Next week we'll have a different guest with a different inspiring story. So God bless you and be safe.